Zara and Ayan had grown up in a quiet countryside town where life moved slowly, but problems never waited. Their mother, Farah, had raised them alone for many years. She was known by everyone in the town as a hard-working woman who never complained, even when life tested her again and again. People admired her strength, but they never knew how much she silently suffered behind closed doors. Every morning before sunrise, Farah would wake up, tie her hair in a simple bun, and walk toward the small farm behind their old wooden house. Their farm was not big, but it was their only source of income. They had a few goats, some chickens, and a small patch of land where they grew vegetables. Farah would feed the animals, clean the barn, water the plants, and prepare breakfast for her children before they left for school. But over the years, Farah's body had grown weak. Her back would hurt after even a little work, and sometimes she would lose her balance for no clear reason. Zara noticed it first. One morning, she saw her mother holding the wall for support while walking. Ayan noticed it too when he heard her coughing late at night. Both siblings worried, but Farah always smiled and said she was fine. She didn't want her children to worry about her. She wanted them to focus on their studies and future. But things began to change when Farah's health suddenly worsened. She started losing strength even before completing her morning chores. Sometimes she couldn't get out of bed. Zara and Ayan tried to help, but they were young and didn't know how to manage everything alone. The family's income dropped, and bills slowly started piling up. The doctor told them that Farah needed proper treatment, and the treatment would cost more than the family could afford. This news hit the siblings like a storm. They knew their mother had sacrificed everything for them. She had worked day and night, never thinking about herself. Now it was their turn to help her, but they didn't know how. Their savings were small, and the hospital bills kept increasing. The fear of losing their home also began to grow because their loan payments were overdue. One day, when Farah collapsed while feeding the goats, Zara and Ayan rushed her to the nearest hospital. Zara held her mother's hand tightly, trying not to cry. Ayan kept asking the doctor questions, hoping for something positive. But the doctor explained again that Farah needed medication, rest, and tests, things that required money. The siblings sat in the waiting area quietly, unsure of what to do next. Just then, a man in a dusty brown jacket and hat walked past them. He looked like someone who worked outdoors every day, a cowboy. His boots were worn, his hands rough, and his face calm but thoughtful. People in the area knew him by name, but Zara and Ayan didn't know much about him. His name was Ethan Hale, a local cowboy who lived on a ranch a few miles away. Ethan noticed the siblings' worried faces as he walked by. Something about their silent fear made him slow down. He had seen that look before, the helplessness of people who carried responsibility far bigger than their age. He didn't want to interfere, but something inside him told him to ask if they needed help. Ayan was sitting on a bench with his face pressed into his hands. Zara was staring at the floor, lost in thought. Ethan took a step closer and gently asked, "Is everything all right?" Zara looked up, a little surprised. She didn't know how to answer. Ayan lifted his head and quickly wiped his tears. They didn't know who Ethan was or why he cared, but his voice sounded kind and calm. "Our mother is very sick," Ayan finally said. "The doctor says she needs treatment, but we don't have enough money." Ethan nodded slowly. He didn't ask many questions. He just listened. That was something he had always done, understanding people without pushing them to share more than they could. He sat beside them for a moment, then looked out through the hospital window as if thinking deeply. Ethan had grown up in the countryside, too. He knew what hardship felt like. He had seen people struggle, lose hope, or fight every day just to keep going. Something inside him felt a connection to the siblings. He didn't know them, but he understood their pain. "Can I meet your mother?" he asked gently. Zara and Ayan exchanged a quick look. They didn't know why a stranger wanted to help, but they felt they could trust him. They took him to the room where Farah was lying. She was awake, but tired. Her eyes softened when she saw Zara and Ayan, and then she noticed Ethan standing behind them. Ethan removed his hat out of respect. "Ma'am," he said kindly, "I'm Ethan. I live nearby. Your children seem very worried about you." Farah smiled weakly. "They worry too much." "I'll be fine," she said, even though everyone in the room knew it wasn't true. Ethan didn't say much. He simply observed the situation. He could see the family's struggle clearly. He knew what he had to do, even though no one had asked him for anything. After a few minutes, he stepped outside the room again, letting the siblings talk with their mother. He leaned against the wall in the hallway, thinking about what he had just seen: Farah's condition, the siblings' fear, the weight of their responsibilities. It all touched his heart. When Zara and Ayan came out, Ethan spoke softly. "I can help," he said. "Not everything, but something. Let me visit your farm tomorrow. Maybe I can figure out a way to ease things." The siblings were surprised. They hadn't expected anything like this. They didn't know why a cowboy they had never met wanted to help. But something about his calm voice and genuine concern made their fear fade a little. "Why would you help us?" Zara asked carefully. Ethan gave a small smile. "Because sometimes people need a hand, and because your mother has worked too hard for too long." He didn't wait for thanks. He simply nodded and walked out of the hospital, leaving behind a little hope in the siblings' hearts. That evening, when Zara and Ayan returned home, the farm felt unusually quiet. The goats seemed restless, the chickens tired, and the air heavy. Without their mother's strength, the place felt incomplete. But at least now, they weren't alone. Someone had offered help. Someone who seemed trustworthy. The siblings spent the night discussing Ethan. They wondered who he really was. They had heard people mention a cowboy who helped farmers during storms or gave water to animals during dry seasons. Some said he had a soft heart but preferred to live quietly. Others said he never turned away from someone who needed help. The next morning, just as the sun rose, Zara heard the sound of a horse outside. She stepped out of the house and saw Ethan riding toward them. His presence brought a strange sense of calm to the farm. Ayan joined her, and together they welcomed him. Ethan didn't waste any time. He began inspecting the farm, checking the barn, the fences, the animal feed, and the water supply. Everything showed signs of neglect, not because the family didn't care, but because Farah had been too sick to manage things. After going through everything, Ethan said thoughtfully, "I think I know how to help." Zara and Ayan listened closely. Ethan explained how he could teach them to manage the animals more easily, how to organize the barn to reduce their workload, and how to save money by growing certain plants that could be used as feed. He also offered to bring some supplies from his own ranch. The siblings couldn't believe how much he was willing to do. But Ethan didn't expect anything in return. He simply wanted to help a family in need, and that moment became the beginning of a connection that would soon change all their lives, a connection built on kindness, trust, and silent promises, forming the first step towards something that would last forever. The next morning, Ethan arrived exactly as he had promised. The sun was still low, and the air felt cool and peaceful. Zara and Ayan were already awake, waiting for him. They didn't know what to expect, but they knew they needed help more than anything. As Ethan approached the farm on his horse, he lifted his hand in a polite greeting. Zara and Ayan waved back, feeling a strange comfort seeing him again. Ethan tied his horse near the fence, then walked toward the small farmhouse. He looked around quietly, observing every detail: the weak fence, the drying grass, the tired animals. It was clear the farm needed work, but he didn't judge them. He understood that sickness in a family could change everything. "Let's start with the animals," Ethan said in his calm voice. "They look hungry and a little stressed." Zara nodded. "We tried feeding them early, but we're not sure if it's enough." Ethan walked into the barn and gently knelt beside the goats. He checked their condition like someone who had grown up caring for animals. He spoke softly as he worked, explaining things step by step. "These goats need more water," he said, "and their barn needs some cleaning. Not your fault. You've had a lot to deal with." He didn't make the siblings feel guilty. Instead, he showed them how to organize the feeding area using things already in the barn. He taught them how to cut dry grass properly and how to mix feed so that it lasted longer. "See this?" he said, while showing them a small trick with the feeding bucket. "This saves time and keeps the goats active." Ayan watched carefully, wanting to learn everything. Zara took notes so she wouldn't forget. Working with Ethan felt surprisingly easy. He explained things in simple words and never rushed them. After taking care of the goats, Ethan moved to the chickens. The chicken coop needed repair, and some hens looked too thin. Ethan walked around the coop, gently picking up one of the hens to check its wings. "You don't need expensive feed," he said. "You can grow a few things on your land that chickens love. I'll bring you seeds tomorrow." The siblings felt hopeful. Every idea Ethan suggested made their work feel lighter. They had tried so hard for weeks, but without guidance, everything felt confusing. Now, with him around, the farm suddenly felt alive again. By noon, Ethan helped them repair a broken fence. He hammered the wooden planks with confidence, and Ayan held them in place. Zara brought water for everyone, including Ethan's horse, who was resting in the shade. "Your horse is beautiful," Zara said. Ethan smiled a little. "Her name is Willow. She's been with me since she was young, strong and calm, like your mother." His words touched the siblings. They remembered how strong their mother had always been, even when life was hard. They wished she could see the farm slowly improving, but she was still in the hospital, resting and receiving treatment. After finishing the fence, Ethan walked toward the vegetable patch. Many plants were drying because Farah had been too weak to care for them. Zara felt embarrassed, but Ethan didn't say anything negative. Instead, he knelt and touched the soil. "It's not too late," he said. "If we water them properly for a week, some of these plants will recover." "How will we manage everything?" Ayan asked softly. "You won't," Ethan replied. "We will." That simple sentence gave them comfort. In just a day, he had become someone they trusted. He wasn't a relative, a longtime friend, or a neighbor. He was simply a man with a kind heart who saw their struggle and stepped forward. Ethan then surprised them by opening a bag he had brought. Inside were fresh vegetables, bread, and a few items for Farah. "You didn't need to do this," Zara said. "I know," Ethan replied gently. "But someone once helped me when I needed it. Now I help others. That's how kindness spreads." They didn't ask him for his story, but they understood there was something deep behind his words. After lunch, Ethan insisted they rest a little. "Working tired doesn't help the farm," he said. "You need strength, too." Zara and Ayan didn't argue. They sat in the shade while Ethan checked the water tank. The tank was nearly empty, and the water pipe was leaking. "You're losing water here," he said when they came over. "We didn't know," Ayan admitted. Ethan showed them how to fix the pipe using simple materials. He taught them how to store water efficiently and how to use it wisely during hot days. Every lesson he taught came from experience, not books. The siblings listened carefully, absorbing every word. As the day passed, Zara and Ayan found themselves smiling again, something they hadn't done in weeks. Even though their mother was still sick, they felt hopeful for the first time. The farm didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like something they could handle with the right guidance. In the evening, Ethan went with them to the hospital to check on Farah. When they entered the room, Farah's tired face brightened a little. She was surprised to see Ethan, but also grateful. "Did you trouble this kind man?" she joked weakly. "No trouble at all," Ethan replied with a small smile. "Your children are strong. They just need a little help." Farah's eyes softened. She understood the value of such help. Life had taught her that kindness from strangers was a blessing. She thanked Ethan sincerely. He simply shook his head. "You focus on getting better," Ethan said gently. "We'll manage things at the farm." For the next few days, Ethan visited the farm regularly. Some days he brought tools, other days he brought medicine for the animals or groceries for the siblings. He never made them feel like they owed him anything. He taught them how to repair broken equipment, how to clean the barn quickly, how to use natural remedies for animals, and how to plan their chores so they wouldn't get exhausted. Zara started feeling confident handling the vegetables and chickens. Ayan learned how to manage the goats and fix things around the farm. Ethan supervised everything with patience and kindness. As the days passed, the siblings realized how much their mother meant to Ethan, too. He treated her with respect, checking on her progress and making sure she had everything she needed. Farah often told her children that Ethan reminded her of the good-hearted people she had met in her youth, the kind who helped without expecting anything in return. Slowly, Farah's health began to improve. The treatment was working, and her strength was returning. When she saw the progress on the farm, she felt emotional. She knew her children had worked hard, and she also knew they couldn't have done it without Ethan. The bond between Ethan and the family grew stronger each day. He didn't just help with the farm, he brought peace and hope into their lives. He became someone the siblings looked up to and trusted deeply. Ethan never stayed for long conversations. He wasn't a talkative person, but his actions spoke louder than any words. Whenever something needed fixing, he was there. Whenever the siblings felt confused, he guided them. Whenever Farah felt worried, he reassured her. By the end of the week, the farm looked healthier, the animals more active, and the siblings more confident. Ethan stood near his horse, preparing to leave for the day. Zara and Ayan walked up to him. "Thank you," Ayan said quietly. "You've done more for us than anyone ever has," Zara added. Ethan put his hat back on and gave a gentle nod. "You're good kids, and your mother raised you well. That's worth helping." He mounted his horse and slowly rode away as the sun set behind him. The siblings watched him until he disappeared along the dusty road, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. They knew their life had changed the moment Ethan stepped in, not just because of the physical help he offered, but because he brought hope, strength, and warmth into their broken days. And little did they know, this was only the beginning of a bond that would soon grow even stronger. Days turned into weeks, and the farm slowly transformed into a place full of energy and hope. Zara and Ayan had learned so much from Ethan that their confidence grew stronger each morning. They woke up with purpose instead of fear. The farm animals, too, seemed to sense the change. The goats were healthier, the chickens more active, and the vegetable garden had started showing signs of new life. But just when everything felt like it was finally settling into peace, nature decided to test them again. A long drought began to spread across the region. It started quietly, first with the river level dropping slightly, then the air becoming hotter day by day. Soon, the grass turned yellow and the soil became dry and cracked. The wind that once carried a cool, fresh smell now blew warm dust across the fields. Zara and Ayan noticed the change immediately. They watched the sky day after day hoping for rain, but not a single cloud appeared. The animals needed more water, the vegetable patch needed protection, and Farah, still recovering, began to worry again. Ethan arrived one morning earlier than usual. His face looked more serious, and the siblings sensed something was wrong. "There's a drought coming," he said softly after greeting them. "It might last longer than expected. We need to prepare." Zara swallowed nervously. Can we handle it? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, but we need to work smart. Not everything will survive the heat, but we can save what matters most. Without wasting any time, Ethan walked them through a plan. His experience with ranching and farming helped him understand exactly what needed to be done. He showed them how to build small shade structures for the goats, how to dig shallow channels to direct water toward the vegetable patch, and how to repair cracks in the main water tank. Ayan and Zara followed him closely, learning each step with determination. They had already gone through enough hardships to know that giving up was not an option. For the next few days, the three of them worked from sunrise to sunset. They carried buckets of water, repaired old pipes, moved animal feed closer to shaded areas, and cleared dry bushes that could catch fire in extreme heat. The work was tiring, but Ethan kept encouraging them with simple words that made heavy tasks feel lighter. "You're doing great," he would say. "Slow and steady. Don't rush. Take small steps. That's how you win big battles." Zara felt proud whenever Ethan praised her. She wasn't used to hearing kind words from adults other than her mother. Ayan felt the same. He admired Ethan's calm strength. Farah watched them from the porch some days, feeling emotional, seeing how much Ethan had helped shape her children's confidence. But the drought worsened. The once green fields turned brown. The water tank dropped to its lowest level. Even the air felt different, dry, still, almost heavy. One afternoon, the sun was so strong that Zara felt dizzy while carrying a bucket. Ethan immediately noticed and told her to rest in the shade. Ayan forced himself to keep working, but Ethan told him to stop too. "No farm is more important than your health," Ethan said firmly. "Sit, drink water." They rested for a few minutes. The silence around them was unusual. No birds, no cool breeze, not even the usual rustling of leaves. Everything felt still. "Will our farm survive this?" Ayan asked quietly. Ethan looked out over the dry land before answering. "We're not just fighting nature. We're working with it. Drought can't be stopped, but we can reduce the damage. And if we do things right, your farm will stand." His confidence calmed their fears. However, the drought brought another problem. Because of the dry conditions, nearby farms began suffering too. Some farmers lost their crops, and their animals became weak. They came to Ethan for advice because they trusted him. Ethan didn't turn anyone away. Even though he was already helping Zara and Ayan daily, he still found time to guide others. Sometimes he returned to the siblings' farm late, covered in dust and sweat. But no matter how tired he was, he always checked on their animals before going home. Zara admired this quality in him, how he carried himself with quiet responsibility, helping everyone without complaint. Ayan respected him deeply and hoped to learn that kind of strength one day. One day, the drought brought a new challenge. The small river that provided water to several farms almost completely dried up. Zara panicked when she saw only a thin line of water remaining. The plants would die if they lost this last source. Ethan arrived and immediately understood the danger. He gathered the siblings and explained his plan. "We're going to dig a small trench," he said, "to guide whatever water is left toward your patch. It won't save everything, but it will keep your most important plants alive." The work was tough. The ground was hard and stubborn, but they kept digging. The sun didn't show mercy, yet Ethan kept them going with encouraging words. Zara's hands became sore, and Ayan's back started aching, but they didn't stop. After hours of digging, a small flow of water finally reached their vegetable patch. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep the plants alive for a few more days. Zara and Ayan cheered softly, their hearts filling with hope again. That evening, Farah stepped outside to look at the farm. The soft glow of sunset revealed how much effort had been put into saving it. She saw Ethan helping Ayan fix the pipes and Zara watering the plants carefully. Tears welled up in Farah's eyes. Ethan saw her and walked over. "How are you feeling today?" he asked gently. "Better," she replied. "But seeing my children work this hard, it worries me." Ethan shook his head. "They're strong, Farah. They learned fast, and they're not alone." Farah smiled. "Because of you, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," he said simply. "Helping good people is a blessing." Farah prayed silently that Ethan would always remain in their lives. She felt safe knowing he was guiding her children. Over the next few weeks, the drought remained. But the siblings became stronger, braver, and more skilled. They no longer panicked when problems appeared. Instead, they asked themselves, how would Ethan handle this? Then they acted accordingly. One afternoon, a group of farmers came to the siblings' farm to meet Ethan. They wanted to build the same water-saving system he had taught Zara and Ayan. Ethan stood in front of the group, explaining things clearly. Zara and Ayan watched with pride, realizing Ethan was not only helping them, he was helping the whole community survive. As Ethan worked with the villagers, the siblings helped him by demonstrating what they had learned. The community saw how much they had grown, and people praised Farah for raising such good children. Even in the middle of hardship, something beautiful happened. The farm, the people, and the bonds between them became stronger. One evening, after finishing all the work, Ethan sat with Zara and Ayan under the stars. The sky was clear, and the night felt peaceful for the first time in weeks. "You two have done something amazing," Ethan said quietly. "Most people give up when life gets difficult, but you held on." Zara smiled softly. "We didn't do it alone." Ayan nodded. "You taught us everything." Ethan shook his head. "I only showed the way. You're the ones who walked it." The siblings felt warmth in their hearts. They had never been praised like that before, not in such a sincere, meaningful way. The drought still wasn't over, but inside their hearts, something stronger than fear had begun to grow: faith, courage, and trust. And they knew one thing clearly. As long as they stood together with Ethan, no hardship was too big. Weeks passed, and although the drought still held the land tightly, the small farm stood stronger than anyone expected. The animals were healthy, the most important plants were still growing, and the siblings had learned enough to handle problems that once felt impossible. Farah was recovering well, too. Her strength was returning, and her smile had started to come back little by little. But the biggest change was something else: the growing bond between Ethan and the family. What began as a simple act of kindness had now grown into a deep connection. The siblings trusted him without hesitation, and Farah felt a quiet comfort whenever he was around. He had become a part of their lives in ways none of them could have imagined. One morning, after another long night without rain, Ethan arrived with unexpected news. "The drought might end soon," he said with hopeful eyes. "A storm is forming in the north. We could get rain in a few days." Zara let out a small breath of relief. Ayan smiled widely. The thought of rain felt like a miracle. "But," Ethan added calmly, "storms can be strong after a drought. We need to prepare for heavy winds." The siblings nodded immediately. They didn't panic anymore. They trusted Ethan's judgment completely. Together, they walked through the farm to make a preparation plan. Ethan checked the barn roof, the fences, the chicken coop, and the water tank. He tied ropes where needed, moved loose items to safer spots, and helped the siblings gather dry wood in case they needed extra support for any structure. Farah came outside holding a cup of warm tea. "You're always thinking ahead," she told Ethan gently. Ethan gave a simple smile. "Life teaches you that, ma'am." Farah handed him the tea. "You've helped us more than anyone in this world. I don't know how we will ever give back." Ethan shook his head lightly. "I didn't do it for anything in return." Farah's eyes softened. "That's why your help matters so much." As the day passed, clouds slowly gathered over the countryside. The wind grew cooler for the first time in weeks. Birds that had disappeared during the drought returned to the trees, cautiously chirping as if sensing the change. When the first droplet of rain touched the ground, Zara and Ayan ran outside with joy. The smell of wet soil filled the air, fresh, warm, alive. Ethan stood under the porch roof, watching the siblings laugh and play in the rain. Their happiness made him smile, a rare sight for someone who usually carried quiet seriousness. The rain became heavier, and soon the ground turned muddy. The plants drank the water eagerly, and the animals calmed, relieved after weeks of dryness. The storm grew stronger, but the farm held steady thanks to all the preparation. After hours of heavy rainfall, the storm slowly faded. The sun broke through the clouds once again, lighting up the wet fields like a blessing dropped from the sky. Zara and Ayan were tired but excited. Everything felt new, alive, and full of hope. Farah stood beside Ethan, looking at the refreshed land. "It feels like a new beginning," she whispered. "It is," Ethan replied. Over the next few days, the farm started to flourish again. Green returned to the fields, the river filled up, and the air carried the sweet smell of fresh grass. The drought had broken, and it felt like the whole town was breathing again. But something else was happening too. Something inside Farah's heart. She had watched Ethan care for her children as if they were his own. She had seen him work tirelessly, asking for nothing. She noticed how he always spoke gently to Zara, always encouraged Ayan, and always respected her. One evening, after finishing the chores, the siblings sat with Ethan under the old tree near the barn. The sky was painted in soft orange shades as the sun set. Ayan broke the quiet first. "Ethan, you've done a lot for us." Ethan looked up with his usual calm expression. "You would have done the same for others." Zara shook her head. "You became like family to us." Ethan paused. His eyes softened. "You all became important to me too." A gentle silence settled. After a moment, Zara said something unexpected. "We want you to stay in our life always." Ayan nodded strongly. "You're not just someone who helped us. You're like our guardian." Ethan looked surprised for a moment. He wasn't used to such honest, emotional words. He took off his hat and placed it on the ground beside him. "You've given me a place here," he said quietly. "Something I didn't expect." The siblings exchanged a silent, understanding smile. They had grown very attached to Ethan, and it was clear he felt the same. Farah, who had been standing nearby, joined them with a warm smile. "You don't have to live alone anymore, Ethan," she said softly. "This family, it's yours too if you want it." Ethan's eyes lowered in quiet emotion. "I've lived alone for a long time," he admitted. "I got used to keeping distance. But your family showed me something I had forgotten, what it feels like to belong." The siblings moved closer. Zara placed her hand over Ethan's, and Ayan nodded gently. Farah watched the moment with heartfelt peace. She knew her children had chosen someone kind, responsible, and genuine to stand with them in life. Over the next few weeks, Ethan visited even more often, not just as a helper, but as a trusted friend of the family. He ate meals with them, told them stories of his ranch life, taught Zara how to ride Willow, and helped Ayan learn new farming techniques. The farm became a place full of laughter, comfort, and harmony. One warm afternoon, Ethan brought a small wooden box to Farah. Inside were seeds, a mix of strong, drought-resistant plants. "These will help the farm survive in future," he explained. Farah touched the seeds with care. "You always think of our future, Ethan." He looked at her with sincerity. "Because you and your children became my future." Farah's eyes shined with emotion. She had prayed for protection, for help, for someone who could support her children when she no longer could. And she felt that her prayers had been answered through Ethan. As the season changed, the farm grew greener than ever before. The community also noticed the transformation. People often passed by and admired how well everything was maintained. Some even asked Ethan to teach their families too, but no one felt closer to him than Farah, Zara, and Ayan. They were the ones he helped during their darkest days, and they were the ones who gave his life new meaning. One evening, as the four of them stood watching another beautiful sunset, Zara said softly, "You saved our mother, Ethan." Ayan nodded. "And you saved our farm." Farah smiled warmly and added, "And you saved our hearts." Ethan didn't say anything for a few seconds. He felt a mixture of gratitude and warmth that he hadn't felt in a long time. "You three saved me too," he finally said. "More than you know." The wind carried their quiet laughter across the fields. The sky slowly darkened, stars appearing like tiny lights of hope. Their journey had been filled with struggle, fear, and uncertainty. But now, they stood together, stronger, united, and full of trust. The drought had tested them. Life had challenged them, but kindness, courage, and love had brought them through it all. And from that day onward, Ethan wasn't just the cowboy who helped a family in need. He became part of their home, part of their strength, part of their forever.